Welcome back to K&L Sports Huddle. Back for another episode here. I'm Cage Kiplinger, your host, joined as always by my co-host Logan Hubert. Got a lot to get to today. All of it basketball, actually. We won't be delving into any other sports this week. Off a short week since we recorded last Wednesday. So finals, NBA draft. We had a pretty cool trade happen over the weekend involving Kevin Durant. So we'll get to all of that. But how are we doing today, Logan? How was your weekend?
It was nice. Yep. I'm glad I could hear you. We were talking before how I was having trouble hearing you, but I just realized it was I had my volume down on my end.
There it was.
Yeah.
Let's get to what missed the cut first off here. We had an eventful ninth inning in Thursday's Padres-Dodgers series finale, which saw both benches clear and both managers ejected. Afterwards, they suspended both of the managers, Mike Schilt of the San Diego Padres and Dave Roberts of the Los Angeles Dodgers, for one game. And I believe Padres reliever Robert Suarez was suspended for 4, but he's appealing it. So I don't know how that works, if he's going to get to play while he appeals it, but it's just 4 games. I would just say bite the bullet there. In college baseball, LSU wins the Men's College World Series, sweeping Coastal Carolina for the second national title in 3 years. There was a big blow up in that game where the manager was thrown out. Ump went down, got a little embarrassed, and had some cool comments after the game from the Coastal Carolina head coach. In the UFC, a legend from there, John Jones retires, making Tom Aspinall undisputed heavyweight champion. I don't watch a whole much mixed martial arts, but I know that name, and he's a big card for them in the UFC. And then finally, in the Ryder Cup standings, Keegan Bradley moves up because he edged out Tommy Fleetwood to win the Travelers Championship. He birdied on the 18th after Fleetwood collapsed. Just an awful putt, awful break on his putt. But it is Keegan Bradley's 8th career PGA Tour win, and many are calling for him to be a playing captain on this year's Ryder Cup. Any quick thoughts on any of those topics there, Logan?
Yeah. So for the baseball brawl, I just always wondered if you wear the team hoodie and you're in the dugout, like when you put the hoodie on, do you sign a contract that says any altercation I must be involved in, no matter where I am? If I'm in the bullpen, if I'm in the dugout, I have to be involved. It's just hilarious. Every
They're
the
going they're
smallest
going
skirmish.
they're going to time you from the bullpen, so you got to bring a stopwatch with you.
Yeah, it's so hilarious how every little brawl that happens, it just brings everyone out, which honestly makes baseball more enjoyable in my opinion. But yeah, as for the John Jones, often regarded as by a lot of people one of the best mixed martial arts guys they've ever seen. So that is a big retirement announcement. There's just so much other sports news that kind of got weighed down, and the yeah, you mentioned Fleetwood's putt. I mean, you feel sorry for the guy because I don't know if he has the record, but I mean, he's had so many top tens and so many career starts without a win. He's in every major because he easily qualifies because he always makes these top tens, but he just never wins. Golden opportunity. Um, the putt was only part of what the disaster. He went through a club change. He switched from a 9-iron to a pitching wedge like at the last minute, and he left it well short. And then Keegan Bradley hit it real close to ultimately make birdie and win. But yeah, I mean, honestly, that was I only watched like the last hour of the Travelers Championship on Sunday, but honestly, that was really really intense golf. Like there was some like I think Rory had a good weekend for him, especially Sunday. I think because I mean, obviously Rory, you expect him to win or contend, but I mean, just bouncing back from kind of a so-so U.S. Open, I think he's sitting good now going overseas here in a couple of weeks. Scheffler, once again, top 5. He was the defending champion, so I'm sure he's mad he didn't win it. But yeah, I mean, like Russell Henley had that amazing chip in because they ultimately had to play 3 guys because there was a storm coming that evening, so there were 3-way pairings. on Sunday, and Henley was in that final group, and most people ruled him out, but he chipped it in off the green to tie it. And if Keegan Bradley would have parred it, then it would have been a three-way playoff. But yeah, Ryder Cup's going to be interesting now. Who knows what's going to happen?
I saw some people saying just make Tiger the captain and Keegan play because he's having probably one of his best years of his career, and a lot of it's probably the pressure being off of trying to make the Ryder Cup team because he's the captain. But now, I mean, you might as well play. And it would be really tough to be a playing captain. It hasn't happened since 1962 with Arnold Palmer. So that'll be interesting to see as we get closer to September with the Ryder Cup. But it's time to talk about the finals as it finished up yesterday. We're recording this on Monday. Finished up on Sunday with the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the 2025 NBA Finals, getting their first title since moving to Oklahoma City. If you know ball, you know they are from Seattle when they were once the Seattle Supersonics. So they take down the Pacers in Game 7. An incredible performance by the Pacers to force Game 7 back at home in Game 6. But ultimately, a tough injury and the role players just not being enough against a really loaded and very talented Oklahoma City team, as well as probably the best defense in the league and one of the best defenses we've ever seen. I will let you have the floor first on this. Give it your take because I know you're a Pacer fan through and through. How'd you take Game 7, and what are your thoughts on the series as a whole?
So I will start positively. I'm sure we'll have a long discussion over this. So I'll start with the positives for OKC. First of all, I guess I consider this a positive, but after Game 5, I was seeing this really weird, I'm going to call it a discourse, but people are saying, yeah, Jalen Williams should definitely be in conversation for MVP if the Finals MVP if the Thunder win this. I'm like, yeah, he scored 40. SGA had 31. That was one game. I think that was just people's SGA hate that, which I understand why people have it. Like I've said before, like it's like the James Harden step back, the shot Shea push off. It's controversial, but they're not going to call it, so that's why people get upset. Like I said, I don't have a problem with it. Exploit the rules as much as you want. It's up to the league to change things. But I was like, yeah, I mean, so like I said, I don't hate him. And I was like, that's why I looked at this. Like, what are we talking about? SJ's clearly the MVP. And then Game 6, ultimately, Jalen Williams had so he scored 40 points in Game 5. And then he put up a minus 40 in the plus minus for Game 6. And for those who don't know what plus minus is basically the score of when you're in the game, like how much you either or you won, how much you won by when that certain player was in the game, or how much you lost by. So the Thunder lost by 40 points when Williams played, which is insane because the Pacers' biggest lead ever was 30, and I forget what the score ended up being. I mean, it was like less than 20 points. It ended up being the final score. So, I mean, Williams was in there for the absolute worst minutes of and I'm glad they got rid of any MVP talks again for him. This is no disrespect to Jalen Williams. He's obviously the second best player on the Thunder, and they wouldn't be here without him. But, I mean, come on. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was clearly the MVP. He didn't shoot very well Game 7, but, I mean, his presence was felt going to the line. The defense paying all their attention to him. Well-deserved MVP. I'm glad. Well, last year there was kind of a discourse like, should Tatum win? Should Brown win? I hate that after a finals. It should be clear cut. It's just all be celebration. There should be no controversy. So I was glad to see that. As for the series as a whole, it was great. Great for basketball up until in the middle of the first quarter in Game 7. And if I'm sure many people who are listening watched it, you probably know what I'm talking about when Tyrese Haliburton got hurt. It was just a real shame. There's lots of arguments on, and like this will be like you said, one of the biggest what ifs, possibly in NBA history, and rightfully so because, I mean, Haliburton may not put up big numbers, but his presence is always known because when he plays bad, the Pacers lose. When he plays good, the Pacers usually win. And we were seeing full on attack Haliburton in that first quarter. Very rarely been seen in the first quarter. So like he had it in him for Game 7. He was going to go. This is going to be an all-time performance most likely. He hit 3 threes in the first half of the first quarter. Did you see the stat where he hit the most threes of anybody in the entire game?
Yeah.
Yeah, like no one else made three threes in that.
And 9 points in 7 minutes.
9 points in 7 minutes. They were confident threes. Like they weren't like a couple were super deep. I mean, he had that killer instinct in him, and just super unfortunate. You could tell right away on the replay. You could see the pop in the right calf. As Mike Breen pointed out, oddly, it was in the exact same spot on the court where he injured, got the calf strain in Game 5.
I thought I was having deja vu watching that play unfold.
Yeah, I mean, it was so strange. It's not like, I don't even know how to describe that. It was just weird. But, and then after that injury, it was just hard to even watch the rest of the game because everyone knew what was going to happen. The Pacers need Haliburton in the fourth quarter. He might be, like we saw in Game 1, he didn't have a great Game 1, but they needed him to win that game in the fourth quarter, and he got it done. And the Thunder knew that he would be their go-to guy, he'd be the go-to guy in the fourth quarter, so he would draw the defense's attention, and that could free up other shots for his teammates. And it's just with him out, there was none of that. Honestly, give 100% credit to the rest of the Pacers. They fought, like, even going into that first half with the lead. Yeah. That was impressive. But like I knew, like I predicted it. I was watching with some people. I said, after that injury, I said, the Pacers are going to play well, inspired. They're not going to give up. They're going to play inspired. But ultimately, the Thunder are just going to pull away because the Pacers are just shorthanded, and that's exactly what happened. Like in the second half, it was just clear that the Thunder were just too much. TJ McConnell, we all love him. I love him. He showed why he's the perfect backup point guard, but why he can never be a starting point guard. He can't run an offense the entire game. Ironically, he got hot at the time he always gets hot, which is like the second part of the third quarter. He played bad all the way before that, but it's like, oh, it's TJ time. It's still TJ time. Yep. And he honestly cut the lead to 5 or 4 after it was brought to double digits. So, but I mean, credit to both teams, honestly. I do think just the way that game was going, I do think if Haliburton played, I think the Pacers would have won just because, like I said, killer Haliburton showed up. Plus, the Thunder in the first half were not good. Like, SGA was the only guy who showed up on offense. Like, other guys were just missing shots, like playing, flow to the offense. And if, I think the moment was just too big for them in the first half, other than SGA. Like, SGA played really well, I thought. But Haliburton wasn't shy of the moment. So but we knew that the Thunder were just too much. So eventually the Thunder were going to gain their confidence, knowing, okay, this is a shorthanded Pacers team. We can take them out. And then ultimately we saw that with Williams and Holmgren finally getting involved. Like, okay, we can win this without Pacers having their best player. But it's the legacy of this finals. That's what I kind of feel bad for the Thunder a little bit. I mean, obviously they earned the title, and you don't want to say it's a fraudulent ring because they had the best record. They were pretty dominant in the playoffs, but I mean, you can say there was an asterisk by almost every champion. This one's just different though. Like I don't know how 50 years from now, no one's going to remember. People will see Thunder won title 2025. How many people remember? I'm like thinking 10 years from now, I still think people are going to be like, yeah, man, the Thunder won that. But that Pacers team, man, that was a fun Pacers team. I really think they could have won that if Haliburton hadn't gotten hurt that Game 7. So, but yeah, I wish Game 7 could have turned out differently. Not even talking about Pacers winning. I'm just talking about Haliburton remaining healthy the entire game. But you could take the floor. I've said enough.
Yeah. Immediately after the Thunder won, it was this is a Mickey Mouse ring, and I don't agree with that really because, like you said, they're the best. They were the best team all year long, most wins. They have the MVP and the scoring title winner in SGA. He's put up an incredible year because he's accomplished something that's historically rare, right? The MVP scoring title and a championship in the same season. It's only been done by Kareem, Shaq, and MJ. So he's in quite the company after this championship win. Obviously, the Haliburton injury is going to be a big talking point when it comes to what if for Game 7 and what could have been, and what it would have been or could have been is the biggest upset in the history of the finals. If we look back and saw that the Pacers had won this thing, um, it might have been the downfall of OKC's just core altogether because it would have been just a heartbreaking loss for OKC in a year when they definitely should have won it. Luckily, they did, and now we get to have conversations about SGA and what his career is going to look like here on out and what he could build up on his resume for all-time status. But yeah, the Halliburton injury will always be a what if for all Pacer fans. And like you said, he was hot, three or four before that injury, and he was leading that team in a way I hadn't seen the past couple games in that series. So a tough break for the Pacers, but an incredible year. And throughout the playoffs, they were the most fun team to watch. I think that's what we'll remember about this Pacer team, and I think Halliburton should be remembered maybe not as an all-time great, obviously, but definitely as a Pacer legend because of what he did in the playoffs this year. So he should get that recognition. I don't know if the Pacers can make it back with this team again. It just seems improbable, but with all the injuries going on, especially now with Halliburton, it is confirmed it is an Achilles tear. So we're probably not getting him playing in the 2025-26 season. So that's going to be tough for them. On the Thunder side, this team, they almost when you watch them play, they're almost boring to watch, and I think that was a big stark contrast to them playing Indiana in this series. They almost had like a Tim Duncan Spurs feel where they kind of just played really well on defense, got good shots. There was nothing really flashy about it. Hit a lot of mid range, just found open men, and it could have been a different person leading the scoring for that night. But I think we need to give more credit to SGA and what he was able to do, winning Finals MVP. Just an incredible year from him. And I think that's just some of the discourse on SGA and this Thunder teams that they're just not that fun to play. This Thunder team, this was the year you wanted to get them. This is the youngest that they'll ever be, the most green that they'll ever be. Chet, Jay Will, those guys, they're going to develop, and SGA is only going to get better. And the fact that they won it this year, it's kind of scary to look forward. What do you think of their chances moving forward of continuing this success? Because we talk about it every year when a team wins the championship. Are they going to be able to build a dynasty? This is one of the first ones where it's like, okay, they're actually set up pretty well in this era with the CBA and all the aprons that you have to keep yourself under in terms of money. They've built this team the right way. Can they continue the success in the ways that previous champions have not been able to in this era?
I think they're in the exact same boat the Celtics were in last year, where the potential is fully there for this to be a dynasty. Obviously, the Celtics. It was more than a Tatum injury for the Celtics too. Like just they looked beatable by the end of this year. So and I really don't know what the cause of that was. I think it's maybe just some of it was just defenses finally figuring it out. If you have 2 years to figure it out, someone's going to eventually figure it out. That's kind of how I feel about the Thunder. Are they capable of this being a dynasty? Absolutely. But we saw the Pacers take them to 7 games, a team that many people have discredited. And if that's true, the Pacers really aren't as good as going as a team that went 7 games in the finals. Maybe the Pacers cracked some sort of code so that the Thunder are beatable. So these discussions always after titles are so weird to have because so many things have to go right for there to be a dynasty. But as for past champions, yeah, they're set up just as good as anybody in the past several years to be a continuing dynasty in this league. But another thing that could change is if the officiating changes. If the officiating just really cracks down on defense and like calling way more fouls than usual on everybody, the Thunder will have to adjust how they play defense.
Yeah.
I started this when we started this series. I was talking about how impressed I was how the Thunder just always slap at the ball, and you think that'd be a foul when you watch the replay. Like, oh wow, that was actually clean. How do they continuously do this? As the series went on, I just kept watching. And I'm like, they definitely got some clean strips, but that's allowed them way too much freedom on defense to just get away with almost anything. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. When you gain the reputation of being a good defender, you get away with way more than you should. And I mean, one thing I do credit them that is they do perfectly right is just the way they move on defense, like switching and jumping lanes. I mean, that's impressive. They're one of the most impressive teams I've ever seen that. But like some of their steals, man, I don't know. Like, did you see the one on McConnell? Like that one sold me. Like, I'm like, okay, this is just what are we doing here? Okay, if whoever's listening didn't see this, so one of the Thunder's fast break points, McConnell was dribbling at the top of the key. His guard hand was obviously out, like most ball handlers should have their guard hand out. Cason Wallace, the Thunder's defender, was grabbing the guard hand, which happens sometimes. Usually gets called a foul. When it doesn't, it's usually because the ref's view is blocked. Like people are showing replays of SGA getting his arm grabbed and no foul call, and I'm like, yeah, that's a foul, but he's in the middle of the paint. There's like several guys around. I don't really blame officials for missing that call. It could go the other way too. The difference with this call was the referee was 2 feet away, staring directly at it. McConnell made direct eye contact with the official, pointed at him, and his arm was getting held, and then it got stolen, and then there was a fast break layup. I'm like, I mean, you can't just get away with that. That's not defense. That's fouling. I mean, it's not fun to watch. No one wants to watch that. I appreciate good defense. I don't appreciate good defense plus fouling and getting away with it. And I mean, just the consistency too. I mean, Aaron Nesmith fouled out 3 times this series. I feel like if Caruso and Dort had his whistle, they also would have fouled out. And I'm not saying Nesmith never fouled. I would say most of Nesmith's fouls have been fouls, but he's not fouling more than any other defender. I feel like on either side. I think it's just the consistency issue. I'm not mad at the Thunder. I'm more mad at just how officiating is in the NBA, and I feel like it needs some major improvements on how it's called.
Yeah, maybe don't have Scott Foster do some of the
Yeah,
finest
that
games.
was also. Yeah.
You know, looking at the Haliburton injury, looking at a lot of the injuries that happened in this playoff, Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, players are really just breaking down once we get to this point in the year. Haliburton was the 8th player this season to go down with an Achilles injury, like that specific injury. And Game 7 was one of the games that I was most excited to watch in a long time as far as an NBA game. And once he went down, it was kind of a bummer to not be able to have that competition for Game 7, to not see him take over, to not see TJ McConnell be able to be in his role and not have to be out of role as the primary point guard on the team and getting those starter type minutes. Um, and it makes me wonder, should we shorten the postseason? This has been a discussion now, I think, for the past few years, and that the playoffs started in the early April, middle of
April. Yep.
April,
It's
and
been over 2 months.
it's over 2 months of basketball that these guys play, and that what makes me worry the most for OKC is that they won't be able to to replicate this, because playing all those minutes, playing those extra games into the playoff season is very taxing on the body. I read a study that since 2012, the average NBA team runs an extra 200 miles per season, which is just obviously could be leading to more of these injuries, these non-contact injuries. What do you think?
So it used to be, didn't it used to be the first round was a 5 game series at
Yes.
one point? Do you remember when that changed? Because
I want to say like early 2000s, maybe late 2000s.
like there's no reason for 1 versus 8 to go
Yeah.
that should not be
When
a four
most of
game
them are
series.
5-game gentleman sweeps. Like,
Yes, exactly. There's no reason for that. Even some of these 4 or 5 series recently haven't been as competitive. Like sometimes you'll see gentlemen sweeps there too. So you're like, I think definitely think they should go back to a 5 game series in the first round. Um, man, I don't know. There's got to be some sort of, if it's the shoes, if it's the conditioning, because it's not like, the Achilles injury's just gone way up. The amount has just gone way up in the last 15 years or so compared to previous 10 years in the league. So yeah, is it the shoes? I don't know what's going on, but it's fascinating that you said that. Yeah, there's been 8 Achilles tears this season. 3 of them were on the Pacers, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, they lost James Wiseman. James Wiseman played about 10 minutes for them in the beginning of the year, and he tore his Achilles.
right.
And Isaiah Jackson, who would have been a huge part of their playoff run and this series, because Frank Levin talked about Miles Turner. Yeah, Miles Turner had an absolutely awful series. I thought decent postseason, but awful NBA Finals. But Isaiah Jackson would have come in and fill his role wonderfully, because he was a great rebounder, and he could finish around the rim. But his season was cut. I don't even know if he barely. I think he also barely played this year, because then he tore his Achilles. So yeah, 3 Achilles tears on the Pacers, and then 2 other star players in the league. Yeah, Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum. All wear number 0. I don't
Yeah.
know what symbolic meaning that has, but interesting. But yeah, and it's just, it's just the worst. That's the worst injury. We saw this in 2019 with Durant against the Raptors. Exact same scenario. He kind of had a calf injury. He decided to play through it. Non-contact Achilles tear. He didn't come back for 2 years. We'll see. I don't know. I really don't know. Sure, the league's got to look into this, because it's just not. They know it's bad. They know you can't lose these star players like this. It's happening too frequently. They're going to look into it, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a definitive solution other than, and I don't even know if shortening the season would help. It wouldn't make things worse, but I don't know if there'd be much benefit to it.
Yeah, when you look back at like previous eras of the NBA, like the 90s, and that was, back down in the post, half court offense, everything was just packed into the paint. Now it's, the pace is really fast, and there's a lot of spacing, 3-pointers, driving to the basket. It's just a more active offensive game nowadays, and I think that it just becomes much more taxing on people's bodies to continue running around trying to guard people and trying to get open shots. And I've heard different theories on maybe going back to 2-3-2 format to limit travel, to maybe like, quicken the playoff format and have it not go, clear into almost July.
Yeah, no, I don't like that solution. I think the pivotal game 5 should be hosted by the
Right.
team with home court
Yeah, and
advantage.
I've always liked the 2-2-1-1-1 format.
Yeah.
I don't like the 2-3-2. I think it does give a
In
slight
baseball, it works.
advantage.
And baseball, it works because home field advantage rarely means anything in baseball.
Right.
Basketball, no, 2-2-1-1-1 stuff. Way to go.
And the good thing is that all the major sports leagues right now have commissioners that are very aware and are not I guess stubborn to not change. We've seen all three of those guys, Goodell, Manfred, and obviously Adam Silver make the changes needed that or at least tweak with a lot of things to try and fix fix what's going on with the current game. Um, as far as this finals go, did you feel like it was a big deal as far as ESPN and how they marketed this and how they presented this? Because a big point of discussion very early on in this series was the lack of presentation. A lot of fans, they mentioned the huge Larry O'Brien trophy that used to be at midcourt behind the logo on finals teams courts. Um, I know a lot of times in big games and big series in any other sport, we get a lot of these like player backstories in the pregame where they interview them and we get to know these guys a lot more. And we didn't really get any of that. We got more just base layer, you know, what's the strategy coming into this next game type of stuff. And obviously the way the series ended unceremoniously kind of hurt the billing on this card. Um, Obviously, two teams that are in smaller markets also hurt the fact that this wasn't one of the more watched finals in the history. But what did you feel? Did you feel like they made the finals a big enough deal as far as an event?
Yeah, it was one of the worst presentations of the finals of any sports championship I've ever seen. I mean, the fans basically bullied them to put the trophy decals
And they were
on the court.
digital for game
That was
two, I think.
digital. They bullied them to put to announce the starting lineups. I don't even know what the point. There's no reason to not show that. They've always shown that. The
Right.
trophy decal, players complained, so that's why they didn't do it. I still think they could find a way to do it though, because of how often they change the court for the the ugly in-season tournament courts. So they
Right.
can. I don't think that excuse works anymore. But yeah, but the roster announcements. I mean, that's one of the best parts. That's what gets you hyped.
Right.
And they didn't show that until Game 5 because the fans finally got their way because they bullied ESPN into showing that. I feel like the coverage. I mean, the pregame and the halftime show. It's just. I mean, Stephen A. and Kendrick
Thank
Perkins.
God the NBA on TNT crew is moving to ESPN next year, so maybe
Yes,
that shakes that
I
up.
mean, those two just don't work. The broadcast, I don't think worked very well. Um, I mean, people were. I don't know how I feel about this. Like the showing the Haliburton injury like 50 times in Game 7. A lot of people complained
Right.
about that, and I understand why. The reason they do that though is because if someone wasn't watching and then they tune in, like, oh, where's Haliburton? And they show it. But I don't 50. I mean, the amount of times they showed it, that was ridiculous.
And it's not like it was Kevin Ware breaks his bone type that you kind of want to see, weirdly want to see multiple times. But there's nothing you can really see that is interesting in that
Yeah,
injury.
that and then like multiple times, like, oh, Rick Carlisle's hot, like he is heated. They'll never explain why. Like they'll never show why. Like I want to know why. Why is he mad? uh, like like show the replay of the foul that may have been missed. I want to see it. Like, um, it's just yeah, it's amazing how bad it's fallen off. Um,
Well,
I
and
mean,
I
like
think
I don't know if I'm just nostalgic for mid. Like it's obviously fallen off, but I don't know if I'm just way overhyping how bad it's fallen off because um,
no, I think
those
the
late
crew.
2000s to mid 2010s were peak, and then
Right.
I
The
don't know.
commentary when Mike Breen had Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson on the call, it just
Yeah,
flowed seamlessly, and they had so much time together. I just don't think him with Richard Jefferson and Doris Burke they just haven't had enough time. I think maybe a few years from now it could be really good. I just think right now, um, you know, obviously they didn't keep Mark Jackson around because he kept looking for more coaching jobs, and so that that ended. And probably the same goes for Jeff Van Gundy. Obviously, he also would say things on air that maybe, you know, shed light negatively on the NBA as far as rules and refs and stuff like that. So that could have been an issue there as well. But that crew was great, and I just don't think the current crew has had enough time to create a lot of chemistry with one another. Because I don't think Richard Jefferson's a bad commentator, and I definitely don't think Doris Burke is, because she's been doing this a long time, and no hate on my end towards her, because I just don't think they've had enough time together to create that chemistry that the previous crew had. Um, like you said, that the fans had to pretty much just bully the NBA into bringing back all the things that make the finals great: the final script, the trophies, the player introductions. Yeah, it looked like they maybe thought the Thunder were going to take this in 4 or 5 games, and that they didn't want to spend too much time with all the hoopla around the finals. But I think missed opportunity.
It's just disrespectful to both fan bases too. I mean,
Yeah,
like like you watch Lakers, Celtics, or Cavs, Warriors play each other. Like, man, can you imagine how awesome it'll be when my team makes it, and like we get all
right.
this attention, we get all this, and then it's just like this just feels like a normal Wednesday night ESPN game. Like this is
Right. The
other
scoreboard
than the
looks the
crowd. I mean,
same.
the crowd makes it different. Other than that, it just everything ESPN, ABC did just felt exactly like a
Yeah,
normal.
graphics, the score bug. I mean, it all looked like a regular season game in February. Um, but yeah, I think, if they took some notes from, the NFL, obviously the Super Bowl was one day, and everything just happens right then, as opposed to a 7-game series in the NBA. But I think there's a lot that they could do presentation wise to at least get you hyped for the game, because with the Super Bowl, I was watching all 5 hours of the pregame show to get set for that game. But we'll see in the future if they're able to do some better stuff with that.
The only advice I would not take from the NFL was don't get their scoreboard guy, because that
Oh
was
God,
horrible in the Super Bowl. That was
the
so bad.
Fox scoreboard.
I don't know how that was approved.
It was kind of nice that it was simplistic, but it would have been nice to have like a cool Super Bowl, styled
Yeah,
scoreboard.
that was bad.
um, and other news that happened in the NBA yesterday, along with the finals happening, it kind of overtook the hype around the finals. Game 7 was the Houston Rockets trading for Kevin Durant, as they will send him to the Rockets, as the Rockets will be sending Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's NBA draft, and 5 second-round picks to the Phoenix Suns. Um, when we looked at destinations for Kevin Durant, we mentioned New York. I think you mentioned a lot Minnesota Timberwolves, pairing him up with Anthony Edwards. This quite possibly, if not the Minnesota Timberwolves, this is the next best place he could have gone to. Because I had heard Spurs a lot as well, as that could have been a lock for him to go to San Antonio, because this is a very well structured organization and team heading into next season, and they have some really talented players in Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith. I think a well structured team is really good for Kevin Durant, because he needs he can't be the number one guy at a place, which he will ultimately end up being the top scorer on this Houston Rockets team next year, because that's just what he is on
And they
any
don't have
team.
much scoring.
Yeah, right. And this is something that they really needed, was just a clear bucket anytime down the court. But Kevin Durant works well in a structured organization, and that's what this is. He did really well with Golden State, and look what they did. So what do you think about him going to Houston? Are they a real contender next season? I mean, they're among the betting favorites now, just right off the bat for next year's finals.
He makes them more interesting. They were 33 So KD was 33 and 29 last year with the Suns. Honestly, I thought better than I thought he was. Because since the Suns were not very good last year, but they did have a little slightly winning record with him. So yeah, so Kevin Durant, 36 years old, very weird career since his departure from Golden State. Like we mentioned earlier, he tore his Achilles in the Raptors Warriors NBA Finals game, so he missed a season. Ultimately, came back really well with the Brooklyn Nets. If his foot size was one size smaller, they probably would have beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the divisional. I would say divisional round of basketball. I think it's just second round. Second round in the playoffs, and that was the year the Bucks won the title game. So ultimately, the Nets could have really done something that year. Since then, though, it's not been the lights haven't been shining bright on Durant. A poor end of the Brooklyn tenure. Obviously, injuries have played a role in some of that because he's getting up there in age. His Phoenix tenure ultimately was a disaster. Not entirely his fault, but it is kind of interesting that the last two teams he's been on have kind of not worked. So that's the risk with Durant. I mean, the only way this works is if, and this is a big if he stays healthy. He has shown he is still an elite scorer, no doubt about that. When you need a mid-range bucket, or a deep two, or heck even three, he shot 43% from three last year, so that's still pretty dang good. He will get you that, and that's exactly what the Rockets need because that was some of the most pitiful offense I've ever seen from a postseason performance in that Rockets Warriors series. So I understand why they did it. Interesting, they got rid of Jalen Green. He was definitely he had one of the strangest postseason performances as well. He scored 38 points in that game too, and then never scored more than 12 in any of the other 6 games. Oftentimes scoring in the single digits. So, but you got to give up somebody. I think if you had to give up one young guy, he would be the guy I would choose. I just think the West is too good. I don't think they're title contenders. I think they'll be better because all they were lacking they were the 2 seed last year. All they were lacking was a scorer. But the chances of KD staying healthy the entire year are very slim. Not to say he'll be back for the postseason, but I just don't think it moves the needle that much ultimately, mostly just due to KD's age.
Yeah, and I've seen posts. He's completed the rainbow of colors that he's put a uniform on in the NBA. He's been to so many different teams now. You wonder, like, man, this is not what I thought his career would look like when he was in OKC. That he would have been on all these different teams and played on all these different jerseys. But it will be fun to watch that team next year with him on it. Because now they'll actually have some consistent offensive score on their team. And we already know they're a really good defense, as they showed throughout this season and the short stint they did have in the playoffs. But yeah, it'll be really fun to see what happens with Houston in like you said, a really tough West. Before we continue, if you are listening on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That's at KL Sports Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead, follow us, give a rating and a review. We're also on Instagram at Huddle KL Sports. You can see some of our content in short form on there, as well as any breaking news that we have on our stories. Big news out of LA with the Buss family selling the Lakers for $10 billion. Gives it off to Mark Walter and his ownership group, TWG Global. That pretty much sets a new precedent for team valuations going forward. It sets a record. The previous one was, I think, $6 billion. I think it was the closest one that it came to. So, huge sale for the Los Angeles Lakers. I know some fans are upset that it's going to be out of the Buss family, and this kind of just succession will not continue within Jerry Buss's start from this back in 1979. But this ownership group that is going to be taking over built a great foundation with the LA Dodgers. They still own them. Uh, when they took over since 2013, they've made the postseason in all 12 seasons. They won the NL West 11 times, won 4 NL pennants, and 2 World Series championships in 2020 and 2024. Mark Walter and this group, they've moved off MVPs and all-star talents with the Dodgers, like Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager, Max Scherzer. They even let Manny Machado walk and go to their in-division rival, the San Diego Padres. They pay for the right stars, and obviously we know how they defer payments. So they do really well with the financial aspects of running an organization like this. And we know that with the Buss family, they've been really cheap, historically cheap, sometimes embarrassingly cheap when it comes to paying their stars and getting good role players to fill around the roster. I love this move for them. It gets them away from a family who really just hasn't done much with the business since Jerry died. What do you think of the move and what it could do for this Laker organization that's been almost overrun by LeBron and his clutch sports?
Yeah, that's the weird. This is just such weird timing with after just completing the Luka trade, but LeBron's still there, so you still have him. I thought if the ownership group is ever going to change, it'd be like LeBron and the Busses leaving at the same time.
Right.
Give the keys to Luka, new ownership. This is a brand new Lakers. Here we go. But yeah, I mean, there's still, as long as LeBron's still there, it's just such weird timing. Like I'm sure LeBron's acted excited about this online and in public. I don't know if he really feels that way because I know him and the was close with the Busses. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean his history with the Dodgers shows that he definitely knows how to work an organization into becoming a huge brand. Even when you're already a big, well-established big brand like the Dodgers even were before, they became I call them a dynasty, a playoff dynasty.
Yeah.
And then you got the Lakers, who are, I would assume, they're the most marketable team in the NBA still, especially after getting Luka. So yeah, I mean, definitely the right guy for to take over. So yeah, you might be sentimental about, yeah, I mean, it's been in the Buss family for several years, but if you're a Lakers fan, but I mean, I would be ecstatic. I think changes often good at the top every now and then, and especially for a big market like the Lakers. So yeah, I don't see any negatives with this at the moment.
Yeah, and then with this group, they made the Dodgers a destination to come play because every player wants to play there because they know if they go, they'll have a shot at a title. And like I said, they moved off MVPs and star talent, so they know how to move off stars. So if Luka doesn't get in shape and learn how to defend better, we could see them move off him too. This is not just his final destination for him in the NBA at the Los Angeles Lakers.
The only
And
issue I have with this is that with getting a guy who's recruited all these big names to the Dodgers, that means we're never going to see the end of the Giannis in a Lakers jersey photoshops, the Jokic in a Lakers jersey photoshops, and Curry in a Lakers jersey. So, I mean, we might see more of those now. So that is a negative I forgot to mention. But other than that, it's all good.
yeah, I mean this team was really ran like a mom and pop shop with the Buss family these last decade and a half. It seemed like they fell in line with like the Cowboys and the Bengals of the NFL, being historically cheap, and just too concerned with family and keeping people around instead of finding the right people to get things done. Um, if you're a Laker fan, you should be ecstatic because even back when Kobe, like his last 4 or 5 years, felt like he had a little bit too much power within the front office. And it feels like the same thing is happening with LeBron these last 2 or 3 years. So I believe Mark Walter will actually, turn this thing around. I know Lakers have been a playoff team these last few years with LeBron, but it just really hasn't gone anywhere since that 2020 bubble championship season. So, yeah, I think it's a great move for the Lakers, and we could see this thing be turned around quickly because it seems like they did a really good job with the Dodgers in a really short amount of time. Last thing we did want to get to is the NBA draft, which will be happening this week, and a couple of the main storylines that we wanted to look at here. Obviously, the top one being Cooper Flag. We know he's going to go number one. Can he live up to the hype in Dallas and help the fans heal a little bit over, Nico Harrison sending Luka to LA? Dallas caught an all-time lottery break in getting this first pick, and Cooper could be the next generational talent that this organization can build around. He'll make his debut at 18 years old. He's in a winning situation, which could equal to him having an accelerated growth as opposed to being on a really poor team that isn't built to win now. Obviously, no Kyrie Irving with the ACL tear, at least for a large chunk of next season. Where do you see, I guess, just him fitting in Dallas with this team and what next year could look like?
I think the only bad thing is that his expectations might be too high because he's filling in Luka's shoes.
Right.
Other than that, I think this is the best case scenario for Cooper Flag. I mean, I will always, for the rest of time, I will claim that this draft lottery was clearly rigged. I mean, there's just I have no doubt about that. I am not complaining though because I want Cooper Flag to succeed. He was such a fun player to watch at Duke. You don't want another Zion situation. Because I mean, I was rooting for Zion too, and ultimately that's been one of the most depressing situations in recent NBA history. But I think the Mavericks are a great organization historically for someone to develop like Flag. He's going to be paired with Anthony Davis. He's going to be paired with some other good role players who've been on deep playoff runs before. So yeah, I'm excited. It'll be interesting to see how he'll do in his first year. I expect him to come out pretty strong because he won't have to be the number one guy, which is huge. I mean, that takes weight off your shoulders immediately as a number one overall pick because you have Anthony Davis. Obviously, Anthony Davis will not be healthy for the whole year, so there will be nights where Flag will have to be the number one guy, which is also good. You don't want to, so he'll have that pressure on him his rookie year. So, yeah, like I said, other than the unreasonable expectations some Mavericks fans might set for him because of the big shoes he has to fill, this is an absolute perfect fit for Flag and for the league as a whole.
Yeah, you mentioned Zion. Like, I think that's a bit of a different situation because he just didn't care about the conditioning aspects of being an NBA basketball player. But Cooper, I don't see any issues with what he'll bring to the Dallas Mavericks, and obviously a much better situation than what Zion had in New Orleans. As far as the next couple picks that are being touted heavily, are a couple guys out of Rutgers. For the first time, a school will most likely have two top 10 selections after failing to make the NCAA tournament. That's Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey of Rutgers. Looking at these two guys, I didn't watch a ton of their games because Rutgers just was pretty much irrelevant for most of the college basketball season, and then they weren't in the tournament. So didn't see a whole lot of film on either of these guys. I know with Harper, the Spurs have shown zero interest in trading the number 2 pick, and it's looking like he will go number 2. He is a 6'4" guard, so he'll ultimately be playing next to De'Aaron Fox in San Antonio. I just don't know how that's going to work. As far as Ace Bailey is concerned, he's kind of been dropping mostly of his own accord. He's the only U.S. prospect not to visit a team facility. He's declined visits to Philly, Charlotte, and Utah. He seems to prefer the destinations outside the top 5. like the Wizards in Washington, the Pelicans in New Orleans, and the Nets in Brooklyn, which could ultimately cost him $10 to $15 million if he gets drafted outside the top five. ESPN projects him at 6 to the Wizards. What do you make of what's going on with these two guys from Rutgers?
Yeah, Bailey's been given bad advice by somebody. This is just ridiculous. Hornets, you can understand why you want to go there, but I mean Philly. I mean, what? I mean, that's like a perfect spot for a top. It's a third overall pick, and you're going to a team that just had a bad year due to injuries mostly. So it's a team that wants to win now. So you could contribute immediately. I mean, I don't. Someone's giving him bad advice, but I completely agree with you on the Harper fit. He's talented enough to be the number 2 pick. This is more of a Spurs issue. Like, I don't know what they need. They need a wing, I think, because I mean, yeah, you have Fox and Castle as your guards. When you have the number 2 pick, um, and they seem to be eager to keep the number 2 pick. They don't seem like they're going to make a trade for anybody based off what I've seen. So I don't know, but there's really no. I mean, Edgecombe maybe he could go there, but I think they seem pretty set on Ron Harper, and it's just such a weird fit. Yeah, like with the position they're in, I don't know if they need best available. They just need guys who can come in and contribute right away. And I don't know if Harper would because he'd not be seeing the court as often.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think there's a lot of great wings in this draft. And that's because this draft is relatively thin from top to bottom. Once you get past, Cooper Flag, which we already know he's going number 1, get past these couple of guys from Rutgers. I know there's been a lot made about the potentials of Con Knipple from Duke, Trey Johnson, VJ Edgecombe, as you mentioned. But the depth of this draft has been glossed over big time because Cooper Flag is taking most of the storyline here. What do you make of this draft board that just seems very light, even though we do have a lot more domestic talent in this year's draft?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to last year. If you take out Cooper Flag, of other than the top guys would not be foreigners like last year.
At least I know the players that'll be drafted in the
Yeah, I
top
don't
10.
know. This was the year to get the number 1 pick. See what were you saying?
At least I know the players coming into this draft.
Yes, that's true. But even that, other than the Duke guys, like another thing that just kind of hampers this is that none of these other guys were on winning teams. Like we mentioned, the Rutgers guys, but the Johnson and who's the Trey Johnson and Fears out of Oklahoma. I almost forget his name. Like they were fringe tournament teams that really
Right.
weren't very good. Neither one of them really deserved to make it. And like same with Edgecombe, he was on a Baylor team. I'm not questioning their talent. It's just like we didn't. I mean, it's kind of, those guys are kind of similar to the European players that we never got to see because, frankly, they weren't on very good teams. So, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be many stars come out of this class. I do see role player potential even later down on the board, but like key guys who contribute as role players. But it's just amazing how uninteresting this draft is after the number. Well, we already know who's going to go number 1. And after that, I just really don't care too much. I'm hoping there's fireworks with trades or something
Yeah.
to make it a more eventful evening. Because, yeah, none of these guys are particularly interesting.
Yeah, there's a couple guys maybe farther down the first round draft board that I've seen on some mock drafts, like Derek Queen, projected to go 15 to OKC. That would be a great role player off the bench for them if they were able to pick
He's
him
kind of
up.
fallen, too. He was
Yeah,
kind of like a
and
top
that could
10
be a
pick
steal
after the
for
tournament, and he's kind of fallen.
a team that has no business having this many picks still on
Yeah.
uh, their pick list. And then Walter Clayton Jr. projected to go number 20 to Miami. Obviously, just coming off a national championship. Obviously, guards It's iffy if they can make huge impacts for teams in this league, but um, it'd be cool to see if he were able to explode. Some second round discounts that could end up being key pickups, at least form into good role players, would be a guy like Tyrese Proctor from Duke, Kobe Brea from Kentucky, a good 3-point threat, and then Janiah Broome, obviously a guy who was up there with Cooper Flagg for National Player of the Year at Auburn. Those could be huge pickups in the second round if teams were able to snatch them up and develop them. But yeah, it is kind of a light draft, one that once you get past the main event and that first pick, you might turn it off, and and then you move on and you wait for him to suit up for Dallas come next season. But that's it for us on the NBA draft. It's not as in depth as the NFL draft that we did a couple of months ago, because it is very light. But hopefully it does surprise us, but we won't really know that at least for another two or 3 years before these guys really develop.
Yeah, and it's different. I think these past two drafts in the NBA have been really uninteresting, but it's not always like that. If we would have covered a draft a few years ago, I feel like we would have went much more in depth because there's so many more interesting guys. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, hopefully it turns out to be a better class than what last year's class is shaping up to be.
Yep. That will do it for us here at the K&L Sports Huddle. We'll be back next week as always. Probably round out this NBA draft content here and recap what we saw from the draft day. And then we got to start looking at some baseball topics, look at we got All-Star game coming up in July. But obviously we've hinted at it before. Come July, we will be starting our division by division NFL preview. We're really excited about that, so stay tuned for future episodes that will cover your favorite teams and their place in their divisions. We'll really break each one of them down pretty thoroughly because we'll take one division at a time on each of these podcasts. So we'll catch you next week. I'm Cage Kiplinger. That's Logan Hubert. We'll see y'all next week.